All right, welcome everyone. I'd like to call this meeting of the Ottawa County Board of Commissioners to order. It is March 26th, and we are starting out with prayer and Pledge of Allegiance. And so if Reverend Gordon Wiersma could join us and get us started, that'd be great.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm grateful to be able to offer this blessing on behalf of the congregation that I serve. Thanks. Good evening. Grateful to be able to offer this blessing on behalf of the congregation that I serve in Holland, Hope Church RCA, and as part of the Christian community here in Ottawa County. I'm honored to be able to do so in the midst of what is a very important week in our tradition, Holy Week. Observances that follow the life of Christ through Good Friday and the celebrations of Easter coming up. And I know that will be happening in many Christian communities in Ottawa County. And as I do so, I also want to honor that this is a holy season for our Jewish neighbors, as the holiday of Purim has been celebrated this weekend and Passover coming up in April, and also for our Muslim neighbors who are in the midst of observing Ramadan, which will conclude with the celebration of Eid, I think in early April. So as I do so, it's also important to honor all people of faith and faith communities here and all people of goodwill who are seeking the common good for our community. In that light, my invocation for this evening calls on the prophetic spirit of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a minister of the Christian gospel from whom I have learned a great deal about beloved community as he spoke of it. For Dr. King, beloved community was the manifestation of God's abundance that was for all people, connected by God's call to love our neighbors, expressed in justice and kindness and humility. As I offer this blessing this evening, I'm inspired by this prayer by Dr. King. Loving God, from your hand has come all the days of the past. To you we look for whatever good the future holds. We are not satisfied with the world as we have found it. It is too little the kingdom of God as yet. Grant us the privilege of being part in its regeneration. We are seeking your new earth in which dwells righteousness. It is our prayer that we may be children of light, the kind of people for whom your world is waiting. Let us pray. Living God, source of all good things, we give you thanks for our Ottawa County community, and we pray for it to be a place of your beloved community. I pray for these commissioners, grateful for their willingness to serve our county, and ask for your gifts of wisdom and courage for each of them in the decisions they make. Guide them by your grace, challenge them with your vision, sustain them by your spirit. As you have blessed our community with such abundant resources of people and creation, of talents and knowledge and creativity, of relationships and compassion, I pray that as commissioners and citizens, you will make us good stewards of those rich resources. Nurture a spirit of abundance in us that desires for all to share in your gifts. Open our hands to provide new ways of sustenance and shelter and health, that all may feel safe and secure. Open our hearts to include those who have been diminished, that we may truly be a community where all belong. Open our minds to new paths of knowledge and opportunity, that we may use all of your gifts for the common good. In the choices made in this body, in the advocacy of the citizens gathered, we do pray for all that is done to be an echo of your servant Dr. King's vision, that we may be children of light, bringing the life-giving gifts for which this community and your world is waiting. I pray in the name of Jesus Christ, through whom I offer thanks and praise this day. Amen. Speak to God.
Thank you. If you please rise for the pledge. All right. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Miss Cosby.
Here.
Mrs. Ebel.
Here.
Mr. Zylstra.
Here.
Mr. Bonema.
Here.
Mr. Moss.
Here.
Mrs. Wenzel. Mrs. Curran. Mrs. Rhodey.
Here.
Mr. Belknap.
Here.
Mr. Bergman.
Here.
Mrs. Medema.
Here.
Mr. Chair, we have a quorum.
Right, thank you. Okay, we have no correspondence, so I'll just use this time to remind people to speak directly into their microphones. I will move to public comment. So this is an opportunity for the public to come and speak their mind. If you could please introduce yourself and share your jurisdiction and make your comments to the board chair. You'll have 3 minutes. And do we have a list?
Yes, number 1 is Michael Kuras, Spring Lake Township.
I am Michael Curris. I reside in Spring Lake Township. My subject today is metrics. I am going to make a very specific suggestion. I hope you heed it and use it to generate other metrics. The overall context for my remarks are the recent board discussions of its strategic plan and the board's desire for more informative metrics regarding achieving the goals in that plan. The immediate predicates for my specific suggestion are 2. First, at the last meeting of this board, we learned that there has been a recent surge in the number of county residents on the dole. We were informed that roughly 50,000 of our county's 300,000 residents are currently receiving some form of government assistance. That is roughly 1 out of every 6 residents. The board rightly asked, what's happening? What is behind this surge? No definitive answer was proffered. However, 2 possible reasons were suggested: a greater awareness of available assistance programs and a critical lack of available housing in the county. The second immediate predicate is the upcoming annual report from the Community Action Agency. On the first chart of their report is the following quote: Ottawa County Community Action Agency aims to reduce the effects of financial hardships by promoting self-sufficiency and empowering individuals and families to achieve economic independence. That is the exact opposite of being on the dole. That is the agency's goal. It is a good goal. It should also be the county administration's goal as a whole. It should be a part of the county's strategic plan. And there should be a metric that accompanies that goal. Let me be more specific. There should be a metric that counts the number of individuals and family in the county on the dole, and that is tracked over time. This metric by itself will not tell us if we have correctly gauged the causes of this surge in the numbers, or if we have fashioned appropriate remedies, but it will tell us if we are denting the problem. Thank you for indulging me again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 2, Elizabeth Brubaker, Holland Township.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Brubaker, Holland Township. There's a lot that goes into governing a county, and because of that, it's expected that there's a learning curve for every new commissioner. Those of you associated and or aligned with Ottawa Impact have been here for a little over 14 months. From the actions that took place at your first board meeting in January 2023, I really got the impression that you all thought you knew all the ins and outs of county governance and you wanted to hit the ground running. But there were quite a few mistakes made. You replaced the previous county administrator with John Gibbs. The taxpayers got to pay for 2 administrators in 2023 as a result, and recently you determined he wasn't the right person for the job. You created a new position to assist the administrator, one that the previous administrator didn't need. The taxpayers got to add over $130,000 to the growing tab, as well as whatever the cost ends up being for the age discrimination suit. Also recently, that position has made it clear that he seeks a different position on the other side of the state. So one must wonder how well that position is working out. Additionally, you tried to remove the director of public health from her position, which was judged to be something you could not do. And then the huge sum of money that you offered for her resignation was judged to be something you weren't able to offer. And all of that came with a financial cost. So again, there's a learning curve. But also, again, you're over 14 months into your term. You should be at a pretty steep point on that curve by now. I have to admit, I was disappointed to learn that at the last Board of Commissioners meeting, you selected someone to be interim administrator who was not experienced in county governance instead of an internal candidate. But there are still 9 months for most of you to finish the term. It's time for you to show the people of Ottawa County that you can use the experience and the lessons learned from the past year to make decisions going forward that are solely focused on the good of the county. It's far past time to be transparent with all the people of Ottawa County. If the cost of FOIAs is truly concerning to you, then stop making decisions out of public venue. And all of us who receive the county updates know you can reach us when you want to. Any information for the people of the county needs to be shared publicly, not limited to campaign sites and highly partisan blogs claiming to be written by people born in the 1700s. It's also time for you to stop kicking the subject of funding an Ottawa food coordinator further down the timeline. You've asked many of the same questions multiple times. You have information and input. And if there's something you're truly lacking in that regard, you're expected to know how to access it by now. Mistakes should be expected as you learn, costly as some of those mistakes of the past year have been. But improvement is also expected. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 3, Karen Obitz, Spring Lake Village.
Good evening, Karen Obitz, Spring Lake Village. I wish to address the items on tonight's agenda related to the proposed appointments to the Community Mental Health Board. After reviewing the applicant's materials included in the packet for last week's Talent and Recruitment Committee meeting, I have questions about the criteria used in the selection process. I'm confident that upon a similar review, most residents would be as interested as I to know just what criteria are being used in the selection process. Chief among my concerns is that it doesn't appear to me that applicants' qualifications, professional background, or years of service are given as much weight as I'd like. So in that regard, I'd like to advocate for the appointment of a candidate like Mark Stevenson, for example, who has submitted an application for a seat on the CMH board on at least one prior occasion, only to be rejected again this time in favor of someone whose application materials were far less compelling to me. Nor does it appear the application of a current board member seeking to serve another term carries much weight. And while I don't deny that fresh perspective on a board has value, as far as I can tell, the collective years of experience reflected on the current CMH board continues to decrease at a concerning rate. So I would advocate for the reappointment of a candidate like Terry Goldberg to the board. I also just learned that, like Terry, the term of current CMH Chair Vonnie Vandersweg also expires the latter part of this month. What I've come to understand is that it appears that although Mrs. Vandersweg also had applied to serve for another term using the appropriate process of submitting her application through the county's IT system, it seems her application was not received on time to be granted an interview, which raises yet more questions in my mind about the selection process. In light of this emerging concern regarding the possibility that perhaps other applicants' applications might also have encountered issues in submission, and for the other reasons I laid out, I urge the members of this board to carefully consider their actions regarding the appointments on tonight's agenda. Given these appointments less than close attention to due process than they deserve does a disservice to the boards to which they are appointed, as well as to the greater community they are poised to serve. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 4, Kelly Goward, Georgetown Township.
Thank you. Kelly Gower, Georgetown Township. I am attending the meeting tonight because as the chair of the County Solid Waste Planning Committee, I have a vested interest in the Materials Management Plan resolution, but that's not what I want to talk about right now. I wanted to take the opportunity in a public forum to acknowledge and celebrate local students that competed this past Saturday at the Michigan Science Olympiad Region 12 competition that was held at Grand Valley State University. Our region includes Ottawa, Kent, and Muskegon counties, and there were 22 high school and 19 middle school that sent teams to the region. At the competition, the students are tested on their knowledge and skills in 23 different STEM events. At Region 12, the top 9 high school and top 7 middle school students advanced to the state competition that will be held on May 4 at Western Michigan University. So I am part of the coaching team of Grand Haven Public Schools. So I'm going to brag on them for a minute because they did exceptionally well. Grand Haven High School placed first in the high school division. And then in the middle school division, Lakeshore Middle School took second place and White Pines Intermediate took third place. And so they will all advance to the state competition. Other Ottawa County schools that will also go to the state competition include Hudsonville High School and Riley Street Middle School, and then also Allendale Public High School. So these students, along with their parents, the teachers, the coaches, put a lot of time and effort into preparing for these events. So again, I just wanted to, in a public forum, acknowledge them, celebrate them, and wish them the best of luck, Grand Haven especially, as they prepare for the state competition. So thank you.
Thank you.
Number 5, Sheila Detloff, Holland Township.
Hi, Sheila Detloff, Holland Township. That is so cool to hear that about Science Olympiad. I am really excited about that. My kids were both really involved in Science Olympiad. I know how hard it is. So how great that there's regional kids who are doing so well. Anyway, I'm here to talk about the Community Mental Health Board as well, and about some interesting developments that happened at the Talent and Recruitment Committee meeting last week. So someone did some digging after noticing a bit of a disparity between the people who were interviewed for the Community Mental Health Board and the people who are currently on the board whose terms were expiring. There was one glaring discrepancy. Vani Vandersveig was not on the list of interviewees. A call to her determined that she had submitted her application, but apparently it was never received. I don't know if that was a legitimate glitch or fell into the same crack in the floorboards that Reverend Kramer's registered letters ended up in. But either way, it seems odd that no one followed up on this. And as a result, a board member with 10 years of service was excluded from consideration. And I think that's a shame. On top of this, the CMH board appears to be out of compliance with MCL 330.1222 with regard to its makeup. As of now, I don't see any primary consumers on the board, but Michigan law requires 1/3 of the board to be family and primary consumers. And of that 1/3, 1/2 must be primary consumers. I believe the board cannot legally conduct business when it's not in compliance with Michigan law regarding its makeup. So my request would be to table the appointments that were forwarded from Talent and Recruitment this evening, extend all the board members' terms that expire on March 31st, and redo the selection process. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Number 6, Bob Stamen, Glendon Township.
Good evening, board. Many thoughts. After his termination, Gibbs came out swinging fast onto local media, including a Scott McMahon interview. He slammed our legal counsel, the Kellerman Group, as lacking municipal experience and nepotism in the selection a year ago, which is true. He also referred to Ottawa Impact as lacking the necessary skills to run the government, which is also true. If I ran a business like I owned in Ottawa, if I ran any of the businesses I owned like Ottawa Impact runs county government, I would have bankrupted them all. And Ottawa Impact is on its way to doing just that. And it looks like Gibbs is planning another expensive lawsuit against the county and more money for the Kellerman Group. Kellerman Group must be very aware that their bad advice lines their pockets. Has Ottawa County been a cash cow to the Kellerman Group? Are they laughing at us all the way to the bank? Cha-ching. With the county legal expenses and the insurance authority legal expenses, we are on our way to $1 million in FY24, the current year, which may cost, the lawsuit may cost $370,000 for the Hamlin thing, and according to news reports. FOIA should confirm that in the next couple of months that the lawsuit got us nowhere. According to Gibbs, the Ottawa Impact Board members are a bunch of dysfunctional and incompetent people bordering on illegal activities. It seems like everything they do creates a very expensive lawsuit. The Gibbs lawsuit will be interesting to watch, with some valuable insight into the internal workings of Ottawa Impact. Will we see any skeletons in the closet? Gibbs seemed to blame Epperson and Whitmore, as well as Moss, for their backstabbing with their accusations against him. I believe most of the accusations are true, but of course some are not. It's hard to tell truth from fiction. It appears from Gibbs' statement that the leader of the lies is Moss. Moss creates narratives of deceit, like the Hamley $4 million agreement that Gibbs said the board approved in closed session. Maybe with hands on the Bible, they will clean up their act. Now on the subject of, well, I'll save that for the next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 7, Donna Mooney, Georgetown Township.
Good evening, commissioners. I had something prepared, but then it just, for some reason, didn't feel right. By the way, Georgetown Township. What I really wanted to talk about is some of the things that I'm seeing lately, and kind of give a little bit of my background so that people can maybe understand where I'm coming from. Want to thank you guys so much for what you're trying to do, what you've been trying to do. Really, hard to hear some of the nastiness that comes out. It's really unfortunate about Mr. Gibbs. Things happen. But what I want to talk about is I want to talk about some of the policies that are going on that our politicians have been instituting that are hurting all of us. And it doesn't matter whether you're Democrat or you're Republican. At the end of the day, we're all American citizens, and we're going to be hurt if we don't come together and address some of these very important issues. First off, I've been self-employed for 16 years, so I do have a very good understanding of how business works and some basic economics, taxes, things of that nature. I also used to be a bankruptcy paralegal. Currently, I'm working with debt settlement clients who are people who don't want to file bankruptcy, but they're heavily in debt and they want to try to work out a settlement with the creditor. I'll have you know that most of the people that I'm seeing, and so many cases coming in every day, it's hard to keep up on. Most of those people are between the ages of 50 and 75 on fixed incomes. When the car breaks down, they can't afford to get that car fixed. While we have this going on, I've also been in the real estate industry for 16 years. So I've got a little bit of a, colorful, interesting, fun, what I think is fun background. But what I see a lot going on, we're in an election year, and I kind of look at it this way. Your choice is between freedom and communism. That's what this election is going to be about this year. And communism, what we've got going on now is we've got a lot of wealth redistribution going on. When you look at things like paying to house migrants with taxpayer dollars, we also have in the governor's budget, she put in a grant to the schools for student loan assistance. So eligible qualifiers can get up to $200 a month towards existing student loans. And all of that is being done on the backs of people who cannot afford it. So at the end of the day, I want people to just take a look at what we've got going on this year. Do you want to be free? Do you want to be socialistic? It's a big choice. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you.
Number 8, Ken Schwalier, Wright Township.
Hi, my name is Ken Schwalier, and I'm from Wright Township. I'd like to thank the majority of this Board of Commissioners, fighting against the tide of degradation of our government, hopefully returning to a more constitutional system where Western civilization and again, raise people up instead of the socialistic trend that we see people's rights are infringed on by only a few elitists and people making a lot of noise. So I'd like to thank you for that. I would like to ask you to deny this member of a satanic group to open up our meeting a month or so from now in what they call a prayer. Prayer is a solemn request for help or expression of things addressed to God. Jesus defined prayer as listening, worshiping, and molding our will into God's will. Satan, the devil, is a divider. Satan knows God exists and that he also knows he's not God. But he wanted to divide man away from God. I believe Satan is using that group to further divide us. The devil comes in with his clever ideas and arguments to convince us that all we have to do is, follow this bylaw or that bylaw or whatever it is, and we're just gonna have to go along with it. But I believe these Satanists, if you want to call them that, do not even believe in God. I think they're atheists. And if they don't really believe in God, what kind of religion could that even be? Is it even a legitimate religion? I would kind of put these people in the same category as those who kind of think boys are girls and girls can be boys. I believe they don't have a standing as a religion. And as a board of commissioners, I feel that you can argue that request to pray before us should be denied. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 9, Joel Studebaker, Jamestown Township.
Thank you, Ottawa Impact Commissioners, for your bold leadership. Human nature is to bristle at change, but massive change has been necessary over the past 14 months. And you've been fighting on behalf of our liberty, and we, the people, support you. I want to quote from an artist named Carmen from 1993. He wrote this, and I think it's amazing how applicable it still is today. George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Samuel Adams, First Chief Justice John Day, named synonymous with the spirit of our country, founding fathers of the USA. Over 200 years ago, they shook off the chains of tyranny from Great Britain by divine call, citing 27 biblical violations. They wrote the Declaration of Independence with liberty and justice for all. But something happened since Jefferson called the Bible the cornerstone. For American liberty, then put it in our schools as a light. Or since give me liberty or give me death, Patrick Henry said, our country was founded on the gospel of Jesus Christ. We eliminated God from the equation of American life, thus eliminating the reason this nation first began. From beyond the grave, I hear the voices of our founding fathers plead, you need God in America again. Of the 55 men who formed the Constitution, 52 were active members of their church. Founding fathers like Noah Webster, who wrote the first dictionary, could literally quote the Bible, chapter and verse. James Madison said, we've staked our future on our ability to follow the 10 commandments with all of our heart. These men believed you couldn't even call yourself an American if you subvert the word of God. In his farewell address, Washington said, you can't have national morality apart from religious principle, and it's true. Because right now we have nearly 150,000 kids carrying guns to these war zones we call public schools. In the 40s and 50s, students' problems were chewing gum and talking. In the 90s, rape and murder are the trend. The only way this nation can even hope to last this decade is to put God in America again. Abe Lincoln said, the philosophy of the schoolroom in one generation will be the philosophy of the government of the next. So when you eliminate the word of God from the classroom and politics, you eliminate the nation that the word protects. America is now #1 in teen pregnancy and violent crime, #1 in illiteracy, drug use, and divorce, and every day a new Holocaust of 5,000 unborn die, while pornography floods our streets like open sewers. I believe it's time, America, to stand up and proclaim, that one nation under God is our demand, and send this evil lifestyle back to Satan where it came from, and let the word of God revive our dying land. For Jesus Christ is coming back again in all his glory, and every eye shall see him on that day. That's why a new anointing of God's power is coming on us to boldly tell you, the world, that you must be saved. The only hope for America is Jesus. The only hope for America is him. If we repent of our ways, stand firm and say, we need God in America again. Carmen, 1993.
Thank you.
Number 10, Roger Williams, Grand Haven City.
I'm Roger Williams from Grand Haven. Sometimes I get up here and make a joke about what I identify as, but tonight I want to keep it serious. Tonight I'm going to identify as something the Reverend Jared Kramer and his woke church associates in the Unified Coalition of Churches would have no clue about. Tonight I identify as a Christian. According to Merriam-Webster, to colonize is defined as to take control of a people or area, especially as an extension of state power. Jared Kramer and his friends in the Unified Coalition of Churches are entering into politics. They are attempting to shape the government into their views, toward the God of their understanding, not the God of the Bible. They intend to force everyone to comply with their views, lest you be labeled hateful or bigoted. And they intend to use the power of government, state power, which implies a measure of force, to ensure we all comply. Kramer has even worked with local government to try to take over the Grand Haven Board of Light and Power. Kramer and his friends also made sure to take over as much of the community as possible for a pride festival, including drag shows with scantily clad drag performers receiving dollar bill tips like strippers from children barely old enough to walk, all in the middle of downtown, out in the open for all to see. He recently filed a lawsuit, again using the power and force of government to peddle his beliefs in a county board of commissioners meeting. To sum up, Kramer and the Unified Coalition of Churches are attempting to take control of the county and their cities to push their version of religion while demonizing anyone who doesn't agree as bigots and hateful. While they love to decry the growth of so-called Christian nationalism, they become spiritual colonizers. And I've been told by the left that colonizers are bad. They want, no demand, us all to follow the God of their understanding. Holland Sentinel political activist Sarah Leach called diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI, a value system. In other words, a moral, social, or religious concept. Kramer and his spiritual colonizing friends adhere to DEI, or the God of their understanding, and they use all the power available to make sure that we do as well. The Latin phrase Agnus Dei translates to Lamb of God. These spiritual colonizers are lambs of Dei, or DEI, no doubt. They are lambs of the God of their understanding, not the God of the Bible, the God of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and they will spread their religion by force if necessary, as a colonizer, a spiritual colonizer, would. Agnus Dei indeed.
Thank you.
Number 11, Dan Vanderwall, Grand Haven Township.
Hi, my name is Dan Vanderwall. I'm from Grand Haven Township. I'm here tonight to discuss a matter with the board. I won't discuss any names at this moment in time. I reached out to one of our board members about a month ago or so on a matter that I had with the Ottawa County Sheriff's Office. I'm reading here in the board, it says the Board of Commissioners is compressed of, let me see here, I'm sorry, it says the Ottawa County Board of Commissioners is elected to serve the people of Ottawa County by promoting and preserving freedom and constitutional rights in our beautiful country for future generations of those who live here. The board policy is to uphold the Constitution of the United States and the United States of Michigan, which protects the natural God-given right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. By pursuing this priority, the board seeks to continually make Ottawa County where freedom rings, which is their version and motto of the county. Nowhere do I feel the life, liberty, of pursuit of happiness at this moment in time. I was assaulted by a Ottawa County police officer. I have yet to talk to any chief. I'm tired of filling out complaints and them not going anywhere. I'd like to seek higher power without legal resolution. I don't think I, as a citizen, have to seek legal counsel to hold accountability to those who serve me as public members. So that's all I gotta say.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Number 12, Greg McClintock, Holland Township.
I guess my name is Greg McClintock. I'm from Zeeland, Michigan. I gotta be honest, I'm normally an armchair politician. Never taken part in these type of meetings, so it's a little bit foreign to me. I'll be honest, I typically lean right. However, with the radical agenda and decisions that are made by the OI group, I simply can't find myself to do that. I've lived in Michigan my entire life. I've lived in many counties throughout the state. I'm a salesperson, so I get transferred around quite a bit. I've honestly just never seen the likes of what I've seen here. And that's why I came here, to have my voice heard. Ottawa Impact, you've definitely created impact from day one. Was it positive or negative? I guess that's for everybody in this room to decide. I mean, it's all over the news. I've got friends and family throughout the entire state. I'm heading up to the UP this weekend. Even they're aware of what's going on here, and they don't hear it out of my mouth. They know it, and they ask me about it. So it's not just here locally around our little circle of Ottawa. It's throughout the state, UP, Lower P, whatever you want to say. I guess in coming right down to it, firing, hiring, expensive severance packages, lawsuits, hiring a Lansing law firm that supposedly had no conflict of interest. That's very concerning. I mean, that's coming out of my tax dollars. It's coming out of everybody here's tax dollars. And I think every one of us should be concerned about that. A lot of time, I mean, our tax dollars support all this nonsense. And I guess I'm wondering, why is there no budget to adequately fund our much needed healthcare department? Budget was cut almost in half. I think from what I've heard and what I've heard her speak, our competent director, Adeline Hambley, it was forced out because she pointed out the financial overviews that she had. And then just to calm down the media circus that was going on around that, then we decided to step back, bring her back. She was competent in the first place. She's competent now. So I guess I wonder why that decision was ever made in the first place. Our much needed food program budget continues to be stalled, and that supports low income seniors and children. My wife works for Zeeland Schools. We came down here assuming that this was a pretty affluent area. And come to find out, through my children going to Zeeland Schools, my wife working for Zeeland Schools, we've actually gone and bought clothes for kids that they don't have that kind of income. They don't go to school with the lunch and that type of thing. We see it firsthand. So there is a huge need for the food program here, and to table it and continue to ask questions about it, it's needed, and it's needed right now. So, I'd get on it today. I've read the Ottawa contract. The question that comes up with me.
Thank you.
Oh, that was quick.
There's a second public comment time at the end.
Number 13, Kristen Hintz, Park Township.
Good evening, Commissioners. Kristen Hintz from Park Township. There are three things that I wish to speak about tonight. The first one, I want to thank you for allowing Reverend Gordon Wiersma to do the prayer tonight. I appreciate that. And I know that we are now a constitutional county, and that means that everyone has the freedom to make their voice heard. And so even though I belong to the Unifying Coalition of Congregations, I do support having the Satanic Temple minister come and give his invocation as well, because we are a constitutional county and everyone's given a voice. So I do want to make that known. Secondly, I've heard a lot of fear in the last the picture of fear of all these terrible things that are happening in the world, in our country, and in our state, and in our county. And I just wanted to say it's not that bad. There's actually a lot of good happening and a lot of positive things that are happening. So despite what we always hear, sometimes it takes us an opportunity to look at all the good things that are happening. One of those good things that I would like you to consider is the Ottawa Foods Program and supporting that and helping get food out to a lot of the families that are food insecure. And the last one that I have is with the Community Mental Health Board. I did look at your nominations for the Groundwater Committee and for Community Action House, and I looked at the applications were phenomenal and those recommendations. But then I also wonder about what we're not seeing with the Community Mental Health Board. So I ask that you table that and look at all of the applications and reconsider it to find the people that would be most appropriate and have the most experience to serve on that board. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Number 14, Virginia Greenlee, Park Township.
Good evening. Yes, I'm Jen Greenlee from Park Township. Many of you know that I do have a background in occupational therapy, and so I've worked with a lot of people, but that's not what I'm here to speak about. I want to make it clear that I understand many are still holding grudges or vendettas against the Ottawa Impact Commissioners from before the day they took their oath of office, their constitutional oath. There were no open meetings acts violated. They were not even in office. It's everybody's own business who they want to talk to, what they want to say, what they want to plan. And we all know they did campaign together. Hello, what's wrong with that? Yet they continue to be persecuted. And people say, they're not transparent. Look at what they did before January. Now we know that the judge had said the director had been hired, she can be fired. They followed suit. And yet everybody was having a cow because they wanted to fire her. How many people really get to keep a job after being fired? Most people have to leave. But we had somebody that refused to leave because somehow money was being fueled for lawfare. And instead of Hambley taking the blame for all the extra money that's being spent and expended, the Ottawa County Commissioners are getting the blame and being persecuted. And then they're being blamed for trying to bribe her with 4 million, 8 million, whatever they never signed. But yet the media, of course, wants to lie. And we already know media does not want to tell the truth because truth is whatever they want to make it and whatever people want to believe. However, we know, some of us know that only Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. There is no other truth unless it lines up with him. And then we also understand that they had to correct the minutes because they saw that the minutes from the previous guard were incorrect. But yet they're jumped all over for that. And then we have somebody that's being recalled for having voted to vote Hambley out. She did her job to vote. How do people get kicked out for voting? Let's get a clue, people. Let's get real. Quit ostracizing these commissioners that are trying to do their job, representing we the people, without all this misinformation, all these lies that are happening.
Thank you.
For doing your work. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Those are all the pre-registered public commenters.
All right. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board? A reminder to state your name and jurisdiction and you have 3 minutes.
My name is David Bourne from Allendale Township. On Friday, I sent a video to each one of the commissioners. I'd hope to be able to produce it here so that people could see exactly what I'm referring to, but I'm asking you tonight to fix a wrong of the past. A wrong that was done by previous board members, a board of 10 years ago plus. A board that was all Republican, not a Democrat on it. I was wronged by them people and their appointees who happen to be Ottawa County Road Commissioners. After much thought and conversation with different people in the community, I was made aware that the decision did not allow me, the only farmer in Michigan or in Ottawa, to be denied a driveway, was done because of politics. Because as a trustee of Allendale Township, I believed in truth. I believed in every decision, every citizen of Allendale should be treated equally. None were better than another because of their financial status or whether they had the right last name. So in the video that you've seen that I sent, it opens up with you looking at a big semi sitting in a driveway that a farmer built over 10 years ago. I built that road. I built that driveway. The land was sold. That was a 13 or 12 axle truck that they were filling up with wood chips because they destroyed the 3 acres of woods, the buffer that was between my cornfields and the residential, wonderful subdivision that moved in. And if you calculate how many pounds of load they can carry with them 12 axles or 13 axles, it comes to about 150 ton, which if you took everything that is on my property, including my buildings and my house, would not come to 150 ton. But you know what? The one farmer who was a citizen 55 years of Ottawa County was denied having a driveway that he had already built. But the subdivision guy who had lots of money and was going to bring more money in for the township was allowed to use that same driveway. I couldn't, to carry more weight and loads and higher restrictions down the road than I was. You can't right my wrong. The $80,000 I spent will never come back. But the lesson I learned was great. The mafia style good old boys club that existed, and you can smirk all you want to, trust me. Dave Morin's the lone tree that I told you about standing out in the middle of this hayfield. It's been struck by lightning, been beat up bad, but yet the birds still flock and rest in his leaves and on his branches. I'm not running away.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Joe.
There's a
Sent you a
second,
copy of the law.
second
In that
public
law,
comment
you can
section.
change what is. You have to post 2 meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board?
Good evening. Adria Hill, Holland Township. I've spoken about my expectations of leadership to these board members over the past 14 months. And I have some concerns about some of the leadership qualities regarding some of the nominations for the CMH board that is in front of you today. In fact, I think you'll agree with some of them. As in December, I attended a CMH meeting, and what I observed was less than good leadership. Commissioners have rightly spoken out against the verbal attacks that they have received. And in that December meeting, Mr. Rockman verbally attacked a member of the community and another member of the board. Commissioners, you have also spoken out correctly for order in the meetings. During that same December meeting, Mr. Rockman talked over other board members. He brought up topics that were irrelevant to the discussion at hand. I go on. Mr. Rockman, at the beginning of a discussion, said, "I've heard enough. I've already made my decision. I'm ready to vote." He was not open to other discussion by other board members to hear what they might have to offer. Instead, he went on with his rant about politics in school, again, when that topic was not relevant to the funding decision being made by the board. As you look at today's packet and you consider who to nominate for this position, I ask you to think about the leadership qualities that you expect out of the different board members, and if the people nominated to this board really reflect those leadership qualities. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board? There.
Good evening, Rich Dawsman, Wright Township. Somebody mentioned something about communism earlier in this discussion, and I heard some guffaws and scoffing. And I just kind of want to remind people that may have been doing that through addressing you and anyone else that most people don't even know what communism is. Communism is a philosophy that the interests of the community, which is where you get the word communism, supersedes the rights of the individual. So if you've ever advocated for any policy or program or edict that put the interests of the community above the rights of the individual, you have embraced communism. So be careful what you laugh at, because when it comes, it's not going to laugh at you. You're going to be in trouble. So just be aware of what communism is and take a good look at what it is that you embrace. I also heard someone talk about how their people they knew were aware of what's going on in Ottawa County through the press. And I'd like to remind people that this is the same press that forwarded the same false narrative that there was a $4 million deal that the Board of Commissioners had agreed to. In my experience over the last 16 years in local government, well, I have been reminded, and our commission has been reminded many times by our attorney, that you are not legally allowed to direct public monies during a closed session. So anybody who knows the law should have known that that was not a true narrative that the press was forwarding. Unless my attorney has been misadvising us over the last 16 years, I knew right off the bat that there could not have been a $4 million deal, which explains to me why the judge probably said there was no deal as soon as she found out it was a closed hearing. So anyway, I've used up most of my time here. There is one other thing I do want to address, and that's the invocation that's going to supposedly come up in a month from now. And so I'm probably going to address that at another time. I want to thank the commissioners for the work that they have done. And I would like them to still, keep an open mind about what's going to maybe happen a month from now. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board?
Sean Half, Georgetown Township District 6. After hearing Andrea Hill's comments, I would just like to say that I'm opposed to Stephen Rockman being appointed to the Community Board of Mental Health. I'm not going to get into details about a private conversation I had with that gentleman, but it's wildly inappropriate. And he will bring, if this becomes known, it's not going to look good for conservatives in this county. So I would ask that he not be appointed to the Community Board of Mental Health. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to address the board?
Connie Allen, Allendale. I just wanted to say thanks to you guys like I usually do, but also for the supporting of freedom of speech and freedom of religion, which I know we're all kind of at odds with and hair on fire right now. I know that it does open us up for discomfort in the public sphere when there's disagreement and debate and heated debate, and that's all okay. And I think that's a great thing, the robust discussion. Obviously, well, maybe not obvious, but it's not comfortable that that person will come up and give an invocation. I think it's a cost of keeping freedom of speech and freedom of religion still what it is. And that's important that we stand behind that. It's not coming out how I had planned it, and I didn't write it all out, so I apologize. But I do think, I guess overall, the way I look at it is we do, like what someone said earlier about fear being a big thing. I mean, we needn't fear. We have a God who's over this and understands all this, saw this coming. This is no surprise. And I'm glad that we have a county And I think it's different probably in other counties and other areas where there isn't the robust discussion and the tolerance for discomfort amongst the board and in the room. And I really appreciate that. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board?
Hello, Dina Arner, Holland Township. I just want to talk quickly about a couple of things. I urge you strongly to consider the words of the citizens who have spoken out against your picks for the CMH. I would hate for this to be yet another chance for you to choose ideology over competence, ideology over commitment, and ideology over what is best for this county. You've seen where that has led you the last 14 months, and it is time for you to start learning from your mistakes. Second, I would like to address something that I brought up 2 weeks ago when I was here, when I spoke with one of the commissioners about the importance of getting the measles vaccine. And it has also morphed into in our further discussion, it has morphed into a discussion of sources. And I've heard several people today talk about which news sources to trust, and they're all lying to us. And that is a big problem that I see is we all have the ability to go out into the World Wide Web and find a news source that will parrot back to us exactly what we want to believe and let us feel like we are right ahead of everybody else because we have our source. But there actually is metrics for determining truth. There actually is metrics for determining facts. And in the realm of medicine and science, the way we determine facts is by repeatable medical studies that control for outside factors, that the results are written up and published in a peer-reviewed scientific journal, which means other scientists who would love to prove you wrong, read the article and make sure that you've dotted all your I's and crossed all your T's. Metaphorically speaking, they actually don't care about your English and grammar skills. But the sources brought to me by that commissioner met that standard in no way. They were opinion pieces by a media source that does not have any reputation for reporting actual medical facts, reporting anything about scientific studies, or having any background in that matter. I choose, and I encourage everyone else to choose, science that is based on actual studies that are done in the realm of science that meet those requirements. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board?
Kurt Mepling from Zeeland Township. It's been a while since I've been up here. I just wanted to pray for you guys on a regular basis. You guys are in a very difficult situation. It's a very difficult time, whether you're left, right, or progressive, and we have all three here. What's going to happen in the next several months is going to be, in my opinion, biblical. We live in a society where churches and pastors have not done what they are supposed to do. They have tried to merely go along to get along, put butts in the seats, money in their pockets, money in the collection plate, however you want to look at it. There are some good churches out there. They are hard to find. We were founded on biblical principles. The Constitution is clear. You guys took an oath to it. I expect each one of you to adhere to that, and I expect each one of you to act accordingly. I do not expect you to reach out to churches and do things that you're not supposed to say. With that said, we have an interesting election for sheriff coming up. We need to have a constitutional county. We need to have a sheriff who has the backbone and the grit to back the Constitution. We need to have our deputies in this county held accountable, period. We need to have judges in this county that do the same. They swore an oath to the exact same Constitution. It's an incredible time. Y'all are tasked with something very difficult. I get it. And everyone is upset because this side's not right. This side is this side. I'm coming to you as a Constitution loving American who says, if we all can set aside differences and we can try to communicate instead of attacking each other, we can actually get some things done. It used to be that way. It's incredible how we want to just sit and attack people, whether it's via vaccine or a measles thing, or if it's communism or whatever it is. Shame on us. What happened in 1933 in Germany is people in churches listened to people in cars going down the railroad track to their death because of who they were, and they chose to sing a little louder. We are not called to do that. Everyone in this room is smarter than that. Thank you for what you guys do. You all are looking really good today. Have a good day.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board? There is a second opportunity for public comment. So seeing no additional in person, we'll continue on with our agenda. Please get a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Second.
A motion and support. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. That motion carried. We're up to 7 consent resolutions. Can I please get a motion to accept the consent resolutions, please?
Chair, I'd like to motion. Oh,
Mr. Chair. Yep, we'll go to Commissioner Cosby and then Commissioner Bergman. And then Commissioner Curran.
I would like to motion to amend the consent agenda and move item H to the action item requests.
We can definitely do that. Commissioner Bergman, did you have a request as well?
I would like to also pull G.
G, okay.
As well. Yes.
Commissioner Curran, did you have a request?
I would like to pull E.
Okay, E, G, and H. Great. Okay. So we're just going to move those then and Commissioner Zylstra.
Making fun, we'll do F so we get them all.
Okay. E, F, G, and H. Just move those down under action items. So we'll make E 8B. Okay, anything else? Okay, if we could just go to the clerk for a vote on that one, to approve the consent agenda.
Is there a motion and second first?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and support as amended, yep.
Mr. Belknap,
Yes.
Mrs. Curran,
Yes.
Ms. Cosby,
Yes.
Mr. Bonema,
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodey,
Yes.
Mr. Zylstra,
Yes.
Mrs. Wenzel, Mrs. Miedema,
Yes.
Mrs. Ebel,
Yes.
Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
Mr. Moss,
Yes.
motion passes.
Okay. That leads us to 8A, which is the Material Management Plan Resolution. A suggested motion is to approve the submission of a notice of intent to prepare the Materials Management Plan, reappoint the designated planning agency, and establish members of the Materials Management Planning Committee. Can I get a motion, please?
So move.
Second. Second.
We have motion and support. Any discussion on this one? It's received quite a bit of discussion already. Anybody has any questions, we could continue to review.
I
Okay.
thought it was pretty straightforward and I appreciate the work that's been put into it.
Anybody else? Okay, all in favor of approving the Material Management Plan Resolution, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carried. Okay, we'll go to 8B, which was 7E, as a reminder. A suggested motion is to place into nomination the name of Esther Fefelsky and to select Esther Fefelsky to fill one public sector vacancy beginning January 1, 2024 and ending December 31, 2024. I get a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Or- The motion and support. Any discussion on this item? Who pulled 7E again?
I did.
Okay, yeah.
I wondered if there was somebody that might be able to go over who the nominees were, and just kind of give updates on that. Because there was Esther and also Ted, it looked like.
There's just one
Oh,
for the
there's
Community
just
Action
Esther.
Agency.
Okay. I think,
Yep, she had a unique set of qualifications, if I remember correctly, too.
yeah.
She did. I did bring some of those if you wanted to hear.
Sure.
There's just one applicant?
Okay, I think what the confusion for me is in the packet, the names are flipped versus what's on the agenda. That's what's confusing me. Okay. That's what it is. Okay.
Okay.
So in the packet, it says the groundwater board is Esther is who you guys want to nominate, but on the agenda, it says Ted, unless I'm wrong.
It's groundwater board.
Groundwater Board would be Ted Malafite and Community Action Agency is Esther Fefelsky.
Okay,
So yeah, the action request has Ted as CAA.
okay.
Okay, so maybe it was loaded wrong in the packet?
Yeah,
Is that what you're noticing?
uh,
I don't have the packet right in front of me.
I guess like Rebecca said, it's just flipped. I mean, the motion is correct on the agenda, so.
Yeah, but the actual packet shows that the groundwater board is Esther.
Okay, sounds like we'll just need to have that
Right.
fixed in the packet. But it is correct as far as the motion is on the agenda.
The packet
Awesome.
that I'm looking at right now is correct. It doesn't
What
need to
I'm
be
looking at
corrected.
is correct.
Great. So
If you look online, it's correct.
So 8B
Okay,
is, the
We're all on the
recommendation
same
is Esther.
Yes.
that's what I just needed to make sure.
And that is
Very-
correct. Esther Fefelsky is who
Yes.
the
Okay,
subcommittee was recommending to put into nomination.
all right. That's what I just wanted to find out about. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Okay, all in favor? Please say aye.
Hi.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carried. Okay, moving on to 8C, which was 7F, Ottawa County Groundwater Board. The suggested motion is to place into nomination the name of Ted Malafite and to select Ted Malafite to fill one K through 12 education seat vacancy beginning January 1, 2024 and ending December 31, 2026.
So moved. Second.
A motion and support. Any discussion?
Just one comment that the groundwater board is excited to have this position filled because the last meeting it was vacant. So
Wonderful. All right. Thank you, Ted. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carried. Okay, we are up to 8D, which was 7G. Ottawa County Community Mental Health Board Family Member Seat. The suggested motion is to place into nomination and forward to the Board of Commissioners the names of Thomas Bird and Stephen Rockman and to select, excuse me, and Deborah Dieter, Paul Duff, Gabriel Dunai, Terry Goldberg, Mark Stevenson, Beth Van Hoven, and Sarah Westheis. And to select Thomas Bird and Stephen Rockman to fill two family member seat vacancies beginning April 1, 2024 and ending March 31, 2027. I get a motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and support. Commissioner Zalstra?
Yeah, I just wanted to get into a quick discussion about CMH in general.
We're actually on this item
I think that will help me, maybe it won't help everybody else, but it'll help me kind of understand what we're doing here on this agenda item.
We are
If-
appointing 2 people. We're appointing 2 people to the Community Mental Health Board.
Sure.
Mr. Chair,
with
can we
your
just
adult-
hear him out?
Yeah.
I mean, can we just listen to his question first before we cut him off?
Please continue, Commissioner Zylstra. It sounded like you wanted to amend the agenda.
No, I don't am in the agenda. I just wanted to kind of understand what's going on with CMH. We have, correct me if I'm wrong, 10 commissioners or 11 commissioners?
We have 11
I have
commissioners
10 on the website,
on our board, but,
and then there's 11 commissioners on the board.
well, there's 11 on our board.
I'm talking CMH board. On the website, I'm seeing 10 commissioners, Listed.
You mean board members?
but commissioners, board members, yeah.
Yes.
Sorry,
Oh, yeah.
make myself clear. CMH board members.
Mhm.
I know Kendra's name, your name is not on the website, but you are on the board, correct? So that's 11, but we need 12, right?
A good question. I don't know the exact number.
Okay, my understanding is we need 12 on CMH. So even if we
That's what's
fill
listed
these,
as 12,
what's that?
12 seats.
Right, so even if we do these 2 today, we'll still be short 1 position, right?
We have interviews that will be taking place yet for the primary consumer.
Okay. And then just following up on a public commenter, we need 2.
2 primary consumers.
Okay, so of that process that you have going, you'll need to get 2 for us, right?
2 primary consumers are still needed. They still need to go through the interview experience.
Okay, so we should see that within a month, or because,
Yeah, and I think
think-
our next CMH meeting is not till the end of April, if I'm not mistaken.
okay, so because Steve Savage term ends at 3/31, so technically he wouldn't be on the board on April 1. So we need to have.
He still
either-
needs to go through the
Either he
interview.
needs to be replaced, appointed, replaced, plus an additional member, right?
Yeah, he will go back, if he has applied, he
Right.
will go back through the interview experience. And 2 seats will need to be filled for the primary consumer.
Okay, great. I really appreciate your indulgence. I just want to make sure I got the numbers right. I looked at them like, wait, there's 10 there. And then no, we needed 12, so.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Oh,
I would like to amend the motion to state that we would be able to, rather than approving Thomas Bird and Stephen Rockman, that we can vote separately.
we just vote by name like is tradition then?
Okay, yes,
We'll do that. If
Okay.
the clerk could be ready for that, that'd be great.
that'd be great.
Commissioner Rhodey.
I just thought it might be helpful to mention that we have our next CMH meeting on April 26th. So there will be plenty of time to work on the primary consumer.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Cosby.
And just to address a concern that was brought up by one of the speakers today too, I did ask Bonnie Vanderswag to submit an application, but there was a problem with the application process. So she did not get it in on time, unfortunately, but welcomed her to resubmit for a potential opening coming up here soon. Yep.
Thank you.
She is
Anything-
the current
anything
chair
else?
of the board, is that correct?
Commissioner
Cosby?
Bonema.
She's the
She's
chair
current
of the
chair.
board,
Correct.
and we're not able to extend a courtesy to somebody that we know to,
Commissioner Medema, would you like to address Commissioner Bonema's concern?
So we went through, the whole interview process had been gone through and the recommendations had already been submitted to talent recruitment before Vonnie reached out to say that she had never gone through the process. And because it had already gone through, I think it actually been extended. I wish she had reached out sooner to say like, hey, where am I at? No one's reached out, but no one had received the information. So the clerk followed up and in fairness, we had to continue with the recommendations we had already made. From my perspective, it would have been unfair to then reopen it up and to pause further. Because on our end, it did not show up in the clerk's queue whatsoever.
so
I believe it's happened a few times.
to follow up on what you just said, I've heard examples of where the interview process has been opened back up for individuals. Are you're making it sound like that's impossible to do. I think we can do whatever we want. When it comes to that process, we can open that back up if we choose to. And I would encourage you to, this is somebody that we know who has served very well. is the current chair. I think that they deserve the respect of an opportunity. They've reached out to go through the process.
I appreciate your perspective. I don't see it quite the same way in this instance. We didn't know about it until it was already done, and anyone could say at any time, they could pull the red flag saying, hey, I applied, but we have no record of that. And so
I'm
that's
hearing
what
that-
we encouraged her to apply again when the seat comes open again.
But she asked 2 weeks ago.
No, that's not, that is not true. That is not accurate.
Commissioner Bonema can say anything he
Well, no,
wants,
I
but
recruit her, Jacob, so I am aware of kind of when that transpired. So that's not
That's the
accurate.
information
We
that's
just-
coming to me, is that there's been plenty of time to
Commissioner,
do interviews.
Commissioner Curran.
Thank you. Is there another opportunity for Vani to apply?
Yes, when
Position's
the
open.
seat opens up again.
Okay. Is there another seat that's going to be opening anytime soon, or is that like in the far future? Or
I would have to look at this, but you can check with the clerk's office too. We handled it all like you would typically handle.
and I agree with deadlines, and unfortunately, this is unfortunate.
And that's what
Um,
I shared. I'm like, it is unfortunate,
Yeah, this is very unfortunate.
but it would have been treating her differently. We've tried to keep things very clean cut.
Well,
So,
as long as
just-
we're doing it across the board, I hope
Yep.
that we keep
Yep.
those standards.
And I'd encourage anyone to check in with the clerk's office to double check that.
Thank you.
I would like to speak up on behalf of the Chair of Talent and Recruitment. I think that we have been very fortunate to have her as the chair. She's brought her skill set from being an educator to the Talent and Recruitment Committee. She has had just an impeccable attention to detail. She follows the bylaws. She has developed relationships with the leaders from each one of these committees or the departments that they represent. And the organization that has occurred under her leadership has been extraordinary. It really, truly has. She's leaving a legacy behind of absolute structure and order and lawfulness and transparency. She does consult with legal. She consults with the clerk's office. She consults with the individual leaders of each one of the departments representing these committees. We're very fortunate to have Allison's leadership.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I know there's been a great effort made on the application process over the last 14 months to make sure it's improved from what it was before. Anyone else have any comments, any other discussion items?
Even gaps that we've had in our bylaws have been identified and corrected.
Excellent.
It's been nothing but continuous improvement.
Thank you. Okay. Seeing no other discussion, let me just remind the board where we're at. We're on the new 8D, which was 7G Ottawa, I believe, Ottawa County Community Mental Health Board family member seat. And as is tradition, we will vote by name. And so if you could select the two names that you would like to vote for, that would be great. Commissioner Miedema.
I just want to state that no concerns were brought forward to me before this date until public comment about any member on here. And I guess if there's any member on this board that had concerns specifically, then I would appreciate that being brought forward. But at this point in time, no one brought forth, instead of just saying, beating around the bush, I felt like that was not the appropriate way to do it. So if there was anything else to be said, I'm welcome to hear comments.
Great. Yeah, thank you for saying that. Yeah, we don't like last second hit jobs during board meetings. It's not helpful. So if we could go to the clerk and people could vote the two names that they prefer.
Ms. Cosby,
Stephen Rockman and Tom Bird.
Mr. Bergman,
Deborah Dieter and Terry Goldberg.
Mr. Zylstra,
Gabrielle Dunai and Terry Goldberg.
Mr. Bonema,
Tom Bird and Terry Goldberg.
Mrs. Wenzel,
Thomas Bird and Stephen Rockman.
Mrs. Miedema,
Tom Bird and Stephen Rockman.
Mrs. Curran,
Tom Bird and Sarah Westheis.
Mrs. Ebel,
Thomas Bird and Stephen Rockman.
Mr. Belknap,
Thomas Bird and Stephen Rockman.
Mrs. Rhodey,
Thomas Bird and Stephen Rockman.
Mr. Moss.
Tom Bird and Stephen Rockman.
Tom Bird and Stephen Rockman have the most votes.
Okay. Thank you. And as one very helpful public commenter has mentioned several times, he would like us to have a formal vote on those names, even though we are traditionally voting in that method.
Okay.
So I agree with what he has said. So all in favor of Thomas Bird and Stephen Rockman, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carried. Thank you. Okay, we are on 8E. And that would be Ottawa County Community Mental Health Board General Public Seat. The suggested motion, I will follow the same practice as Commissioner Bergman referenced, to place into nomination and forward to the Board of Commissioners the names of Beth Van Hoven, Kathleen Bates, Gail Clark, Cheryl Nassen, Judith Cohen, Deborah Dieter, Gabrielle Dunai, Virginia Greenlee, Stephen Miskelly, Cheryl Parker, and Mark Stevenson, and to select Beth Van Hoven to fill one general public seat vacancy beginning April 1, 2024 and ending March 31, 2027. Okay, I get a motion.
So moved.
Second.
So motion and support will go to discussion and after discussion, we will vote by name before ratifying it with a final vote. Commissioner Zylstra.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I'd like to place in nomination the name of Bonnie Vanderswag as well.
Okay, there's a motion to amend this motion to add into consideration Bonnie Vanderswag.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'm amending or just adding a name of the nomination.
Well, I guess technically you can vote for any.
That does not follow the policy. They do have to go through an interview
Okay,
process.
I guess the question.
It would be make them an ineligible applicant on here.
Okay, could I quick pause, everybody? We'll need a second to amend the motion. Seeing none. Thank you, Commissioner Zylstra.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
I do recognize the desire to have had applied, just
Right.
so that
and-
you,
And I don't want to speak out of turn, but I just noticed that the next opening is March of 2025, so.
Yep.
There will not be an opening for her
Yep.
for a year.
and I was just trying again, just to state it one more time, is treating everybody the same, no matter how long they have been seated. This a fair process for everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, I mean. may I-
Commissioner Zylstra.
Yeah, I mean, I understand fairness, but if there isn't indeed an IT issue, then we're not talking fairness.
When there's an IT issue, to me, it was multiple people, and that is when we addressed that last year. But when it was only one, I don't believe that is the same circumstance.
So,
Please continue.
okay, I mean, so do we verify that it was indeed an IT issue or it wasn't an IT issue? I mean, I just want to make sure that when we use the word fairness, that we're being completely fair to her. That if she did apply and the system just didn't take her application, she shouldn't be penalized for that.
Is there any record of her application?
I think so. I don't know.
No.
Can I ask the clerk at the moment or no?
Sure.
Rachel, would you be
Department.
willing to share what you know about this one?
Yes, so when I looked up the name, she does have an account and the account shows every single time an applicant has applied and their application is listed under that name. So that's where I went immediately when I received that email. And I do not see anything since she applied for the last time she was placed on the board.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner
Appreciate the
Zylstra
discussion. Thank you.
and Commissioner Miedema. I appreciate that. Any other discussion on the Community Mental Health Board seat? Commissioner Cosby.
So I would like to just kind of make a statement. I'm going to nominate Steve Miskelly for this particular role. Community mental health provides activities and services for our community members. There's 3 stakeholder groups: intellectual and developmental disabilities, community members with chronic mental illness, and community members with substance use disorder. Ottawa County is very fortunate to have many qualified members willing to share their knowledge and expertise serving others and participating on the Community Mental Health Board. Today, my vote for Stephen Miskelly is because I think it's important to have community members on CMH's board who can represent chronic mental illness. Stephen and his wife started a not-for-profit named Be Better in honor of their son Ian after a tragic loss of life due to suicide. He was only 19. Ian was a highly successful athlete and student attending the University of Michigan, who also battled depression and anxiety. Instead of privately coping with the worst loss imaginable for parents, the Miskelly started Be Better. Be Better has assisted over 200 Ottawa County families with anxiety and depression and navigating the mental health services here in Ottawa County. I think that this is a perfect alignment, this particular nomination, because what their goal is to make sure that the vision for Be Better is that our community knows how to navigate mental health resources here in our community. So thank you for that opportunity to share.
Thank you. Hey, anything, Commissioner Bonema?
Thank you, Commissioner Cosby. I really appreciate that. I too will be supporting Steve Miskelly, and for all the reasons you said, as well as I really feel that his voice is needed on the board, as I believe that those that have been dealing with mental illness in their family, that voice is underrepresented currently. So there's a gap there. So I think that he would be a fantastic addition to the board, and I hope other board members will join us.
I think there's thoughtfulness I have to share in the way that we are looking at the boards and making sure that there is adequate representation from, kind of all stakeholders in the community. So there isn't the partisanship that gets mentioned frequently. In fact, we're really trying to make sure that the services that we are providing here in the county are, the community members get a fair representation from each one of their perspectives.
Commissioner Miedema.
I respect Commissioner Cosby's plug for Steve Miskelly, and I don't think anyone would go wrong with his skill set if they choose him today. I think Beth Van Hoven also stood out greatly. I know that it was a really great discussion that we had in our subcommittee between the two. And to be fair, I don't think you will go wrong with either one of them. A little bit about Beth is she has an adult special needs son and has quite an awareness as well of CMH and some of the issues that we face as a county, and maybe some of the things that she could help with digging in and doing the research. In fact, she started a day program called Agape 26 with 3 other families and conducts a newsletter for that. She currently has been retired from Spectrum Health. She worked there for a long time, but she just retired there 2 years ago. And she trained providers in the EHR program to use voice recognition, as well as training on the navigation of the EHR program Epic. She audited their created documentation using voice rec of the ER charts all the way through discharge. She was there for 27 years and then was also the treasurer of the professional board for 5 years, which was the credentialing board. I know that she wants to make a difference in our community as well. And again, I don't think you could go wrong with the skill set from either one of the individuals mentioned.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, so if we could go to the clerk to call the roll.
Ms. Cosby,
Stephen Miskelly.
Mr. Bergman,
Stephen Miskelly.
Mr. Zylstra,
Stephen Miskelly.
Mr. Bonema,
Stephen Miskelly.
Mrs. Wenzel.
I don't know if I'm allowed to do this, but I did a deep dive into both of those and it was a hard decision. But my vote is Beth Van Hoven.
Mrs. Medema,
Beth Van Hoven.
Mrs. Curran,
Beth Van Hoven.
Mrs. Ebel,
Beth Van Hoven.
Mr. Belknap,
Beth Van Hoven.
Mrs. Rhodey,
Beth Van Hoven.
Mr. Moss,
Beth Van Hoven.
Beth Van Hoven has 7 votes.
All right. All in favor of appointing Beth Van Hoven, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, and that motion carries. Okay, thank you, board. So we are up to 9A, committee reports, and next we have Jennifer Wazowski. Welcome.
You. Good evening. I'll let this fire up first. Okay, thanks. So I'm Jen Brzezowski. I'm the program director for Ottawa County Community Action Agency, not Community Action House. Just want to put that out there. And we're also known as OCA, which is a shortened version of our thank you. That is our acronym. Make sure this works. Okay. So we had a really busy year in fiscal year 23, lot to cover, but I really want to focus on these 4 areas to highlight. So staffing and development, our strategic plan progress, programs and data, and then some successes that we had over that fiscal year. So this is our team. There are only 8 of us. So we're a pretty small department, but we do a lot in the community. So our team over the last year, we onboarded 2 new staff members, and they've really been pivotal to the success on our team. And again, because we're so small, it's, you know, it's a lot when you have 2 new people on the team. So that cohesiveness is exceedingly important. So we really focused on a lot of training for these 2 team members, as well as, you know, just deep dive with the team to get to know everybody, just to work on that cohesiveness. So some other things that we've done, extensive sessions on development in the areas of communication, conflict, and team dynamics. And then also the creation and revision of our value statement that we're continuing to work on. So just some areas of that development. We had over, well, it was 1,043 hours of staff training and development over the last year. So we're really proud of that. A lot of that goes out to the Ottawa County Human Resources Department and the Talent and Development Group. There are a lot of trainings that HR does that have been really instrumental for our team. And then a core principle that we really lean on our team are the 5 behaviors of a cohesive team. So the foundation of that, it's really small, I apologize, but that pyramid there, the foundation of that is trust. So we work on that a lot as a team. Because we're working with the community, it's really important that we all trust one another, and that we build off of that so that we can be really strong for the work that we do in the community. So next is our strategic plan goals. So we worked with the Department of Strategic Impact. They were phenomenal in helping us with our strategic plan. So we rolled that out at the beginning of 2023. So these are our 5 goals. I'm hearing again this evening why number 1 is so important. So creating a brand that clearly conveys who OCA is and what services we provide. So we love Community Action House, don't get me wrong, but we really want to differentiate ourselves from that because we are 2 totally separate entities. So that is really important to us in the coming years. We want to utilize impactful data to measure success, inform programs and solutions. We've been working hard on making sure that our data makes sense. It's telling a story to the community. The next is develop strategic partnerships with other organizations. So we work really hard with other organizations in the community, Holland BPW, Zealand Board of Public Works as well. We have a lot of great partnerships and even some funding that's come out of those partnerships, which is great. Fourth is increased board, volunteer, and client participation. So we just really want to help board members, volunteers, and clients just understand who we are and what direction we want to go in. And then lastly, obtain sustainable and flexible funding streams. So I think it's really important. I know I've said it in other meetings before, but we do not receive any county funds. So we are 100% grant and fundraised. That's what sustains our agency. So for that reason, it's really important to find more flexible funding streams because we know grants are complex. So the more partnerships that we have in the community, the more successful that we can be. So these are some areas on a more deep dive, more specifically, some areas that we have, some things that we've accomplished over the last year. So in fall of 2023, we onboarded a graduate level intern. She was really pivotal in helping us with our customer satisfaction project. We've had a survey for customer satisfaction for quite some time, but the participation rate was quite low. So she took some time and actually made phone calls to a number of members in the community to get that data, and it was really, really helpful to help us move forward. We began utilizing an online intake system. So we realized that a lot more people are using, whether it be phones, email, and just making that process more streamlined and electronic has been very helpful for our clients. We changed up some staff roles. So we noticed just based on people's strengths that they weren't necessarily in the right seats. So moving people, one individual over to more of like an admin role to be support, and then elevating a position to more of a development role, data role, to be able to accomplish more of our strategic plan goals. We're trying to attend more community events. We have one coming up. The community mental health is hosting a health fair, so we'll have a booth there. So we're excited about that. Exploring internal resources for assistance. Because again, we have the resource of the county. We realized that we weren't utilizing all the tools that were available to us. So we've been using a program called Teletask that the county has so that we can send out messages to our seniors to remind them about the food program, for example. The two last ones, partnering with graduate students for rebranding, that undertaking can be expensive. So we are working with some students at Grand Valley and trying to help us with that rebrand and get our message out to the community, which is going to be really exciting. And then lastly, strengthening our internal procedures, making sure things are clear in writing, so that if anybody were to walk in and new, they can reference these procedures and be able to move forward. So diving into our program. So for those of you that don't know what we do, we have really four main buckets of work that we do at OCA. We have energy efficiency programs, food security programs, emergency home repair programs, and utility assistance programs. I don't expect you to read this in a great level of detail. Really, the whole purpose behind this slide is just to show the complexity of our funding. So although we have those four buckets of work, we have so many different funding sources. With those funding sources come different rules, different guidelines, so why those procedures are so important. And I think the pieces, again, I want to point out in yellow, two of those are pass-through grants. And then one, our community services block grant, is kind of our backbone grant that all community action agencies in the nation receive. And that really covers our admin costs. So we don't have a lot of grant funds that are covering a big bulk of our admin and just being here as part of the county. So CSBG is really pivotal in helping us with, covering those costs. So diving into more data, the demographics for those assisted, I think it's really important for people to know who we're helping. We reference the ALICE population a lot. So asset limited, income constrained, and employed. So oftentimes we're not helping those. A lot of folks aren't necessarily just zero income, no income whatsoever. Those that we're helping, what we're finding a lot of is the vast majority are over the age of 55. So a lot of individuals who are retired. So that is by far the highest level in the work status is retired. And then we also see a lot of single parents who are working full time, and they're really balancing the kiddos and trying to make ends meet, pay their utility bills, struggling paying for daycare and things like that. So there's a lot going on in this slide, but just to break it down a little bit, assistance provided, again, going back to those 4 bucket areas. So under energy efficiency programs, we provided 53 home energy education appointments. And then we did 34 homes were weatherized over fiscal year 23. For emergency home repair programs, we did 2 home rehab projects, completed those. And then we did 81 housing quality standards inspections. Those are programs, we have partnerships with Resilience as well as CMH. And we go in and inspect the properties to make sure they're safe for the next person to move in or for the person to continue to live where they're at. For food security programs, we have our senior food program, an average of 330 residents ages 60 and up receive food boxes. And then our TFAP, which is the emergency food assistance program, we were serving an average of 14 households per month. And that comes out to be roughly 99,000 pounds of food. So that was a really successful program. Utility assistance, we were able to provide 677 utility payments, not necessarily to all the same people. It's a lot of different individuals that were served in that. And then of that 677, 322 were provided assistance with fundraised dollars from our Walk for Warmth or local grants like Holland and Zealand Board of Public Works. So then going on to successes, program by program, again, bucket by bucket, our utility assistance program. So we've been doing a lot of training. I mentioned quite a bit of, so more cross training on our team so that those that are coming in with a utility, a past due utility bill, we're not just paying a bill and sending them on their way. That's not really the focus of what we want to do in that scenario. So when somebody comes in for a past due utility bill, we're going to sit down with them and we're going to do some goal setting, find out what they want to achieve, what got in the way of them paying their bill, how can we keep it from happening again? And then we're going to funnel them into any one of our programs that we can. So maybe their, grocery bills are high, right? Can we help with food? There might be some education that they need. There might be some weatherization services that they need. And not just within our program is where we're referring, but we're also referring to external partners as well, because they might not know that a particular resource existed. It could even be as simple as, I didn't realize that I could pay my utility bill online, something like that. So we're doing a lot more education and making sure they're getting connected to the right programs. So for home weatherization, we've received quite a bit of funding for this program over the last couple of years. And our program coordinator, she started in August of 22. I hope I'm right, Barb. She was really pivotal in onboarding new contractors. So, I mean, to get more grant funding is wonderful, but if you don't have people to do the work, not as great. So in December of 2022, we tried something new and we did a contractor open house, which given the time frame, contractors not really looking for jobs right now. They're already really, really busy. Regardless of that, we still onboarded 5 new contractors, which was huge. So that speaks really highly to the relationships that our program coordinator has really worked on over the last year or so. And it's, just speaks to the success of the program and that there are people out there and contractors out there that are mission minded and want to do more to help the community, which is great. We also worked on, again, those policies and procedures to make sure our intake process is really smooth. There are a lot of requirements, so we just want to make sure that we're doing the job the right way. We also worked really closely with the county's purchasing department. They were really instrumental in making sure that our contracts were the way they were supposed to look, that the bidding process is the way it's supposed to be. So they really helped us clean that up so we can keep an open RFP out there so that if anybody wants to be a contractor, it makes it so much easier to join. And then lastly, we onboarded a new full-time team member. His name is Aaron, and he has been working really hard in training, and he'll be taking an exam the next couple weeks to hopefully become fully certified to do the energy audits. And I know there was a question at one of the meetings about cost savings. What does that look like? So, and I think it was Commissioner Moss, I think you had asked about that. So I wanted to highlight that a little bit. The numbers, I really focused on estimated. It's a tough one. We think it's probably higher than this. But the estimated energy savings, and again, this is going to be per kilowatt hour and per cubic foot for electric and gas, not necessarily cost savings. And the reason I say that is because energy costs are rising. So we're not going to really see as big of a jump. But in terms of what energy sources are being used, we're still seeing a dramatic decrease because people aren't having to bump up their heat in the winter because now they have caulk around their windows, or they're not having the issue in the summertime of cranking the air up because now they have more insulation in their attic or wherever it may be. So a lot of success with that program, and it's been going very well. Next is our food programs. So mainly in our senior food program is where we've seen the most growth. In the last probably year, maybe a little longer, we added DoorDash as a partner. We learned that our seniors' biggest struggle was getting to the food distribution. So driving there, having somebody drive them there, and then getting the box put into their trunk, that was a challenge. So we tried to fix that challenge and add a DoorDash so the boxes get delivered directly to their doorstep. And it's been a phenomenal partnership with them. Since we've added DoorDash, our participation has grown by 30%. So we're serving that number that I gave for last year. We're up to close to 400 seniors versus the 330 that I mentioned earlier. We also incorporated a program called Senior Smiles. And that is starting out by simply adding more resources and also some coloring pages for the seniors. So what we learned about a lot of seniors is, a lot of them are living by themselves. They're not very connected to the community. So our goal is just to help them feel a little bit more connected and not just getting canned goods, but getting something else that maybe brings a smile to their day. We're hoping that evolves into even more. But for starters, we just wanted to add a little joy to their day along with the food. And then lastly, over 1,100 hours of volunteer time were provided. We could not run these programs without our volunteers. They're so helpful. Even though we have the partnership with DoorDash and Feeding America, it still takes hands to move the boxes and sometimes drive to the seniors. So those volunteer hours are really, really helpful for us. I referenced this earlier, and again, I apologize. It's hard to see some of the wording in here. But in terms of the customer satisfaction survey that our intern did, we had really amazing results. So we were asking questions about, whether or not the staff members were knowledgeable when they talked to them. Were the clients treated? Did they feel like they were treated with dignity and respect? Were they compassionate? And just seeing the visual, we had really overwhelmingly positive results. That people really agreed with that and felt like they were treated with a lot of respect. We opened it up a little bit further to give more just open-ended answers as well. So again, clients were very satisfied with their experience. They said they would refer others to OCA. And then we had a lot of people that were just really, really thankful. We had somebody say they were so excited to get their box of food. I think, and I'm struggling to read this, but I believe we had over 47 people said they were thankful for the program. So we're just really proud of this survey, and just we take a lot of pride. I think that team building I talked about earlier on, that really feeds into how we're connecting with our clients. We have a strong team. So I think that just makes it so much easier for us to connect and have our clients feel really valued and respected. In addition, just to the positive results, the intern that worked with us, she also just recognized, we could answer some questions in a different way. We could ask them better. There's just different parts of the process that might work. And one suggestion that she gave was maybe you can incentivize people so they will actually do the survey. So maybe like getting a gift card donated or something like that. So she had really, really great information, and the information that she gave us, we fixed some pieces of the survey, and we're hoping to roll that out pretty soon. And that is all I have for fiscal year 23. What questions do you have?
Commissioner Bergman.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Jennifer, remind us again, how do you coordinate with the Salvation Army and Love and organizations like that? How do you coordinate, and make sure that you don't have overlaps?
Yes. So TFAP, or the Emergency Food Assistance Program, we coordinate and we get the food out to their food pantries. I can't say that we're single-handedly getting all the food, right? But the TFAP food that we get from the USDA, we coordinate and get it out to those pantry sites. So we're making sure, one, that they have the food, do they have the supplies that they need? And then we're also making sure that the community is aware of the distribution, whether it be like a mass distribution at their sites, or if they're just doing like regular pantry hours. Because they have that TFAP food, we're just making sure that the community is aware that it's out there and they can access it from the pantries. So we don't have, like at our location, we don't have a pantry. We're basically the distributor in getting that food out.
But you also have rental assistance and utility assistance and things like that as well.
We have utility assistance, but not rental
No, not rental,
assistance.
okay, but
Yeah.
utility.
Yeah.
And those are things that are covered with Love and
They do some of
Salvation
that
Army.
as well.
Yeah.
Correct.
How do you
Yeah.
make sure that you don't overlap?
They're really great partnerships.
Okay.
So if we connect with a client, we make sure that they sign a release of information and they're aware that we're going to coordinate with other agencies. So sometimes it looks like Salvation Army might be able to pick up part of a bill and we pick up the rest, or they'll say, no, we can't help, and then we help. So there's a really good collaboration, and that release of information is really helpful. So the client knows that we're not doing it behind their back, but we're trying to make it best for them. Yes.
Commissioner Bonema.
Yeah, thank you, Jennifer.
Sure.
I wanted to make sure the public knows where they can find you. And you are on the James Street,
Yes.
where you're at the
Yes.
Public Health Building on James Street.
Correct.
So they should just walk in if they need to meet with your team.
I would say I appreciate that question. So yes, we're at James Street. We're trying to, not that we don't want to see people, we love seeing people. It's actually easiest to do it either online or by phone. We realize not everybody has internet access, or, they might not access on their phones, right? And the reason that we say that is because there's eligibility criteria that's based around income, and there might be some income documents that we have, or there are income documents we have to collect. And the last thing we want to see is somebody driving from Spring Lake to our office and then they find out I don't even have what they need. So we really encourage people to start on our website. We have an application. they can email our team or they can call us, and we are happy to go through all those documents with them so they don't waste their time or their gas money.
What is your website?
It is miottawa.org / I always do that on forward or backward slash / CAA.
And then my
Yes.
question, thank you for getting that out. My
Yes.
question is, how do most of your clients find you? How do they come to
Mm-hmm.
you? Are they being referred by your partners or by some of the community activities?
Sure.
How do they learn about you and your programs?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say the biggest referral source is call 211. So 211 usually has the most up-to-date information. So if somebody were to call 211 and they say, my water's turned off, they'll know who in the community, because we'll reach out to 211 and say, nope, we don't have these funds right now. Can you put a pause? So they're a great partner. Our BPWs are great partners as well. I would say those are probably the two main ways people are coming to us.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks.
Any other questions? I had one. Commissioner Curran.
Real quick, she mentioned, thank you for coming, Jennifer.
Yes. Yeah.
You mentioned most people find out from 211, and for those who might know the acronym for the RPPW, can you explain what that acronym means?
I'm sorry, which acronym was that?
You mentioned 211, and I think you said RBPW.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yes.
That's
So
okay.
we are in a world of acronyms.
Yeah, I know.
So, and they're going to butcher me for this. Call 211. So call is Community Access Line of the Lakeshore, and 211 is literally the number that you would dial out. So it's call 211, and that's a resource. I think there's a 1-800 number too for if you can't do the 211 number. And then your other question was the BPWs, right?
Yes.
So those are Board of Public Works. So we work with Holland Board of Public Works and Zeeland Board of Public Works. We have funding from both of them, but we also work with, SEMCO, consumers, but we work closest, I would say, with the Board of Public Works. Thank you.
Thank you
for the reminder.
I have a quick question. You mentioned the home rehabs. What is that like?
Yes. So I can't say I'm out there doing it myself. Again, it's contracted out. So it is a program. It's not a grant. It is more, it's program income. And we have, those that apply, hopefully I don't trip this up. So after 5 years, half of the loan is forgivable. So it's a loan program. So when it's, if the customer or the consumer moves, and it's paid back to us, then we take that piece of money and we put it into another program. So that's why you don't see high numbers with that, because ebbs and flows. We don't know exactly how much money we're going to get in a year. And then in terms of the rehab, so we're not like renovating kitchens to make them pretty, right? It's nothing like that. It's health and safety measures. So if they have a leaky roof, we get a lot of like septic issues, things like that. So if people have like sewage in their yard, like we want to take care of that. Yeah. Did that help answer your question?
Yeah,
Okay.
just
Okay.
interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yes.
Any other thoughts? Commissioner Ebel?
Yes, looking at the numbers of people that you assisted in 2023 and the numbers that are written, like for example, the food security program, it's an average of 330 residents.
Yes.
Are those numbers separate individuals, or is it repeat, or is it just, like in other words, is it a repeat resident, or is it 330 different?
That's a good question. So it's, once they're signed up for the program, then they can get the food boxes every other month. So a lot of it's going to be typically the same people that are getting the food boxes every other month, because there's some coordinating that needs to happen. But that's not to say that some months people might say, I only want one food box. So those numbers, that average is a little bit misleading, just depending on who decides to get the food box on a given month. Does that help
So in
answer
other
your
words, a
question?
person that gets it every other month, and that would count as two? Or is that counted as
We would
one?
just one. So the way we do bi-monthly distribution. So we're doing 2 boxes every other month because it's easier for all of our partners. So it would be counted as one person in that scenario.
Okay, great,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes.
Anyone else? Any other questions? Thank you for kind of the innovative approach too. That's pretty interesting. And I'm impressed that you're serving up to 400 residents in that particular program. And on a more ongoing basis, there was one public commenter who was a little concerned about food programs in the county. One of the programs that was put on pause was related to senior food, which is, similar to what we're talking about here. Just that program gave seniors a $25 gift certificate one time. So this is significantly greater support. So thank you. Thank you for doing that. And it is both kind of good to see that you're finding people, it is growing, but it's also, a reality that, you're up to 400 now.
Right.
So anyway, something for continued research. Thank you. All right. Appreciate it.
Yep.
All right. Next up, we have Paul Klimas and the IT annual report. Welcome, Paul.
Hey, Jordan, just hold off on the PowerPoint. Another exciting IT report. Now, it is interesting reading if you're into this. You're not, it's like a sharp stick in you. I recall getting advice early in my career. Basically said, if your presentation is interesting, take your time. If it's not, short and sweet and to the point. So this will be short and sweet to the point. You like that? Yeah. I found writing this report was a continuation of everything that we've been doing for the last 3-4 years. Generally, everything is working, everything is sustainable, everything is strategic, we're secure. Continuation of the same. So we have the same contingent of staff as we've had in the last 5 years. We have the same services, same service offerings, same service levels. We have generally the same number of users, about 1,300. Servers, devices, with a little bit of growth. We have the same risks and challenges as we've had in the past years, right? Talent development, the pace of change, continuing our security profile measures. But as I mentioned, we're sustainable, we are strategic, and we are following industry best practices and standards. We are now in a 3-year budgeting, strategizing activity. So it should be pretty stable going forward. We had a lot of change and a lot of investments in the last few years for the few commissioners that didn't hear this speech last year. But yeah, that's all materializing and being used. There's of course a lot of things that are ongoing, and I'm not going to steal the thunder of the other departments. But court management, JIS, body cams, Granicus, you name it, it's always evolving, and I'm proud of our departments for embracing and leveraging technology effectively. I guess in closing, I continue to be very proud of our IT team. Highly trained professionals, they're learning, they're growing. We don't have turnover because they're learning, they're growing. But they are highly marketable, so there's a risk associated with that. I'm honored to work with the leadership of this county, department level heads, everybody. They're supportive, they're challenging, and they're very professional. It paused on the presentation because, like I said, it's may not be everybody's thing, I too speak in tongues and lots of acronyms, and I try not to do that when I do this here. But if you have any questions, I'm happy to dive into the details.
Any questions?
Usually the chairman has one.
I have at least, I just have one.
I'm sure you read.
Two easy ones, maybe. I always, seems like I always preface this with, I don't know if you can answer this in public. How are we doing on security breaches?
We don't have any security breaches. We have hacks and attempted things.
Yeah.
We have a security information and event management system that basically tracks everything that goes on. We get terabytes and just terabytes of logs and things and alerts. We're still in the process of rolling out what's called mobile device management. And two-factor authentication. We're going to get to a thing called, you all might like this. It's a thing called Hello, right? So we're now into facial recognition, finger recognition, just like you use on your phone. So you don't have to keep typing in your password on your PC. We're waiting on Copilot. Copilot is an AI coming out of Microsoft. It's not available yet in a G3 space, which means it's not available to the government cloud, but it will be in the next couple of months. And I've already drafted a policy on how we should use that and or not use that.
Excellent. See, I took a risk, but I figured you'd say no, there's no security breaches. I'd just like to highlight that on one of the pages in the report, it's page 4 of the report, that the operations are approximately 3.7% of the county budget. Seems well in line with a number that I would like to see. But that, I believe, is of the general fund. And so if you look at it as compared to the total county budget, we're at 1.7%.
If you look at, we were doing cost of service delivery metrics. If you look at that, we use a publication called Computer Economics that compares municipal governments, counties of equal size, and the amount of revenue expenses that they're spending on IT related issues. And we're very much in line with the median.
It's excellent. It really is. Yeah. And it's even better when you compare it to the total budget for the county. So, Commissioner Curran.
Thank you. First of all, great presentation. Short, sweet, and to the point. I always like that. But in your packet, you go over your alignment. And I found that incredibly helpful because it's probably very complex, but the way you created the little building blocks with the Legos, it really showed a visual that was easy to understand for the layperson to show how our system is built. I thought that was fantastic. So thank you. Second, I wanted to ask, is there any conversation in your department or in your office about implementing AI into the building block structure of how you do things in your department?
We do leverage AI
Okay.
today, especially in our security profile.
Which block?
It wouldn't be something that you would see.
Yeah.
But it's something that we leverage to monitor everything.
Okay. Gotcha.
But as I mentioned, Copilot, which is Microsoft AI, much like ChatGPT is.
Okay.
But then we're going to get into, privacy rights and just be sure to check things, because every time I've used it in the past, it's kind of cluttered.
Great. Thank you, Paul.
Yeah. Thank you. Greatly appreciate it. I've used a lot of IT systems and I really appreciate ours. It's very good. It's excellent. Okay, that brings us to 10 public comments. This is the second opportunity for public comment. So if you'd like to address the board, you have 3 minutes. Just a reminder to please state your name and jurisdiction and direct your comments to the chair. Welcome.
My name is Dave Barnowski and I vote in Port Sheldon Township. I have a very specific request. First, I'd like to be, I'm grateful for the very positive things that were said about Bonnie Vanderswag. But I'll address my comments to the chairman, but I hope all of the commissioners will help in trying to make my case to the chairperson of the Talent and Recruitment Committee. Because I would like you all to try to inveigh upon her to overcome her reluctance about being unfair and to include Vonnie Vanderswag in the, what did she call it? She called it the experience, I forget what the first word she used, the experience,
Interview.
interview experience. Thank you. I would like you to include Vonnie Vanderswag in the recruitment or the experience because it hasn't happened yet. And I would like you to do that because I would like, I think it is a dereliction of the duty of the Talent and Recruitment Committee chair to not have recruited the chairperson of that committee with 10 years of experience. Did you forget that there was recruitment in the name? If you did not recruit the chairperson of that committee to get her application in on time, that is a dereliction of your duty. You should overcome that the reluctance of yours and get her in there too.
You could please address your comments to the chair. Thank you. Would anyone else like to address the board? Reminder, please state your name and jurisdiction for the record.
Hi, guys. Donna Mooney again, Georgetown. Just a couple things that I wanted to add when we were talking about, some of the things that I've heard as far as trusting the science and, anybody can get their news in an echo chamber. I just want to kind of clarify for myself. The experts at one time were bought and paid for by the tobacco industry. That is a fact. The experts at one time were telling us that cigarette smoking was safe for us. Today, we know that that's not true, right? Also, if you go and you do a little bit of research, you'll find that 250,000 people lose their lives every year due to medical mistakes. Those are due to the experts, correct? So one of the things that I also want to bring into that is fear. And when COVID hit, our government, with the help of the media, with the help of Pfizer, they played the fear card so to the extent that you had some people, even you had stations set up in parking lots for people to just drive through and get an experimental injection into their arm. Was there any discussion with your physician about, maybe medications that you're taking and how that might affect you? So there were a lot of people that were driven by fear to do things that they wouldn't normally do. As far as where some of us get our information, I know for myself, I don't need to get my news in an echo chamber. I just want facts. So as a paralegal, I tend to look at court filings. I know I also looked at the Pfizer dump. That is Pfizer's own trials that they did do. Peer-reviewed studies. Well, you have to trust that those are being done in good faith and not being done by the people who are have a vested interest in the outcome of those studies. So that's another thing. So I think that another thing that I want to point out is if we had listened to all of the experts, all of the people in this room, myself included, who did not succumb to an experimental jab, we would all be dead right now. We're alive, we're well. Most of us, to my knowledge, are not having health problems like some of our vaccinated counterparts. I know for myself, I know 5 young people that have lost their lives, 5 children. 5 children recently. That's all I'm going to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to address the board? welcome.
Do I get that time back since she felt that she needed to intrude on my time when I stayed quiet during hers? But I guess courtesy is only for some people. Dina Arner, Holland Township. I don't even know where to start. Implying that everyone who took the vaccine became sick, implying that she has knowledge of doctors who have stated on the record that those tragic deaths of children that she's aware of were caused by the vaccine, and referring to them as experimental jabs when they were approved by, excuse me, this is my time. Do you mind?
Please continue.
I expect 10 seconds back at the end then, since she cannot keep her mouth shut. When they're approved by the CDC for use, they are no longer experimental. Every study we have seen by a reputable scientific basis has proven that those vaccines saved millions of lives. Laugh all you want, science still works even if you don't believe in it. That's the glory of science. I'm trying to think what else you brought up. There were at least 5 things I wanted to respond to, but I didn't have anything to write with. As far as getting news sources, peer-reviewed science. You obviously have never met a scientist if you don't think that every scientist's goal is to disprove something that is already believed by the rest of the scientific community. Scientists are incredibly competitive. They would like nothing better than to disprove one of their fellow scientists. So to imply that they are all going to follow the company line for any particular reason, or even to imply that scientists are going to approve medications and give them to their own family members and their own children, if those are at all dangerous, is laughable. I don't know how much someone would have to pay you to endanger your family members or children, but none of the scientists I know would accept any amount of money to endanger their own family members or their own children. I think that says a lot more about you than it does about me.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to address the board? Welcome.
I don't know quite how to continue on from where I was. I know this much. I've shown this board a wrong of the past. Some of you even sat at my table and seen the legal documents, and I proved to you that lies were made and proven to be lies in a court of law. That was done by the Ottawa County Road Commission, a rogue organization that is under your control, and you have the ability right now to do the right thing and remove those commissioners, which will save money for the people, and put elected officers in charge so that the people, when they're wronged, have somebody who will listen at least. Now, maybe you choose not to listen to anything I say, and that's fine. Maybe I don't come here anymore. I don't have a problem with that. I know I've got a lot of hours sitting in these chairs. And I've tried to lift you up when I felt God wanted me to. I also held you in check when I believe God wanted me to. Because I don't support any of you 100%. I'm disappointed with where we're at as a county on some things. And other things I'm very proud of. But I'm going to tell you something. If what happened to me happens to one other person, and you chose tonight to do absolutely nothing about it, shame on you. Because I'm going to tell you something. Not only does it destroy that family, but it destroys the very essence of what that person believed in. That his country was the greatest country on the face of the earth, and that his God was ultimate. And that all he wanted to do is raise his family and do that and serve his God. And I found out different, didn't I? Do you realize how hard that was on my soul? You know how bad my faith is today compared to what it was? A lot of the things these people believe are not true because I've lived it. I'm going to tell you something. When Jesus walked on the face of this earth, he came against the scribes and the Pharisees. I can't mandate you to know who God is and who Jesus is and what he's done for you in your life. You know who does that? Jesus said, I will build my church. And when you try to do it on your own, all you do is create heartache and demise and cause people to become Satan worshipers. Oh, that's are nasty words, Dave. I'm going to tell you something. That pastor for that church is no different than what I used to be. And Jesus loved me enough to pick me up. And I'm praying to God that he does it for him too. Got a lot to say. Unfortunately, I don't know how to make you do something about it. Just remember this, Pilate washed his hands. It wasn't the right thing to do.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board?
Aaron Jacob Bagner, Precinct 1, Jamestown Township. Just want to read a little excerpt out of the word here. This is Mark chapter 7, verse 6. Jesus answered and said unto them, well hath Esaias prophesied of you hypocrites, as it is written, this people honoreth me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. Howbeit in vain do they worship me, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men. For laying aside the commandment of God, you hold the tradition of men, as the washing of pots and cups, and many other such things that ye do. Jesus continued on and said, full well ye reject the commandment of God, that ye may keep your own tradition. I think that speaks volumes to the fake Christians that come up here. Just remember, Jesus' arms are open. His hand is out. Take his hand. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board? Welcome.
Welcome. Bob Seaman, Blaine Township. I missed a few comments in my first go around here, but on the subject of the new interim county administrator, Mr. Anderson, who was voted in by Moss and his OI group in the last meeting, knowing full well that Mr. Bonema and Mr. Bergman would not be there. How easy. Anderson appears to have no experience and is underqualified for the position. Decisions on personnel have failed you miserably over the last year plus. Could Anderson watch out for Epperson and Whitmore, who seem to enjoy backstabbing their former boss? As the former fiscal services director in Ottawa County, I'm concerned still about the current county's current AAA bond rating. In my opinion, the shenanigans of the Ottawa impact and the effect on our finances over the last year or so have put that AAA rating in jeopardy. Lawsuits. Moss recently, very proudly, did a release touting that the Ottawa County retained its AAA rating for some water GO bonds this last January. However, that rating was based on fiscal year 22 results that ended on 9/30/22 under the old board, per the Moody's rating. Moss and the Impact Group did not take office in January of 23, 3 months after the end of 9/20/22. Thank you, Joe, for touting the former board for its good governance and handling the finances during that time of office. That was decent of you to give the former board a pat in the back. The release might actually backfire on you. The impact of fiscal year 23 and fiscal year 24, which is only 6 months old, has not hit the bond rating agencies. The fiscal 23 audit has just been completed and yet to be presented to the board. The effects of the ratings of FY23 events still are to be determined. Things have negatively changed since 9/30/2022. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board?
Yeah, Rich Dawson again, Wright Township. I know that these public comments extend the meetings real long, and I appreciate your patience for all of our, myself included, desire to voice our opinions. So what I wanted to talk about last time, I wish I could address you all more privately, but all of you, I believe, identify yourself as Christians. I'm hoping you do. And you all identify yourself as commissioners. And my desire or my hope is that you think of yourself as Christians first, commissioners later, as opposed to commissioners first and Christians second, which means that ultimately it should be your beliefs as Christians that guide your decisions. And the community puts you in the positions you are. And I believe ultimately God places people in positions of authority. And for that reason, I would hope that you rely on your Christian beliefs as to what you do. What I want to bring up has to do with the invocation that is scheduled a month from now by a satanic worshiper of some sort, I guess. And what you may feel is putting you between a rock and a hard place. And what I remember in the book of Acts in chapter 5, there was Peter and another disciple were preaching about this character, Jesus, who apparently rose from the dead. And the Sanhedrin, the governing body, did not appreciate that. And they told him to stop it. And Peter's response to that was, we choose to obey God and not man. Now, there's a verse in Romans chapter 13, the first verse that says, submit yourself to the governing authorities. And a lot of people don't understand what that means. That's very specific. You know, the verse could have read, you know, Paul could have wrote, submit yourself to the government or the government officials. But he said the governing authorities. And then the verse goes on to declare that because all authority comes from God. Anything that is outside of God's will is not coming from a government authority. It's coming from a government official who has stepped outside of his authority. And even government laws and policies can be outside of the authority that God grants. And if it doesn't come from God, it's not authority. The recent policy on who does invocations, to the degree that it allows a satanic person to come in, is outside of God's authority, and therefore it has no pressure on you. So please consider that.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board?
As an additional note to what the gentleman just said, when you obey the authorities, it's only when the authorities are out there to do us good, not when they do us bad. So that brings us back to the tyranny that we underwent with COVID. And I'm following in the steps of Donna without her knowing and without me knowing that she was going to speak on that. It was not that long ago that the spirit of fear did take over the whole world. And we had to be careful about the grandmas that was being parroted, along with the case-demic, the numbers. What are we going to do with the next pandemic? They may not use COVID again, because a lot of people have wised up to that. They could use climate hoaxes. They could use food scarcity. They could use election fraud again. We don't know, but we need to be prepared as a county. And we do know that right now, our present health director would fall in line and be complicit to go along with CDC that happened before. We know that it was emergency use authorization. I have called up Pfizer various times, and you can call them up yourself. It is still emergency use authorization. There is no proof. There is no double-blind placebo trials. People that are dying, people that are having vaccine injuries, people that are getting affected are the guinea pigs. What are we going to do?
And then in terms of the money, I thank you for continuing to watch what's happening with the money, because we know things like the Momentum Center having $22,000 monthly from the old guard. We also know that there was $57 million in ARPA funds that was spent without adequate accountability from the old guard. But yet they want to accuse you for how money's being spent now. I'm so thankful people are awake. It's good. People should have been awake with the old guard instead of saying, oh yeah, things were moving along fine. Things were going good. Baloney. There was a lot of corruption and greed. We will not allow tyranny again, but we need to know what we're going to do. There will always be division because there is a spiritual war that has become evident. We all get to choose sides. The God of this age has blinded the minds of unbelievers, and so they will not have spiritual discernment. However, as for me and my house, we choose to serve the Lord.
Thank you. Could you please add your name for the record? Thank you.
Virginia Greenlee, Park Township.
Appreciate it. Okay. Would anyone else like to address the board? Welcome.
Sheila Detloff, Holland Township. I have a point of clarification on something that has come up tonight for at least the 57th time. That might be a little exaggeration. I'm talking about the Grand Haven Pride Festival and some people's view that the drag show at that event sexualized children. That definition aside, which is another whole issue, every time someone brings this up, they make it abundantly clear that they were nowhere near the Grand Haven waterfront that day. The way that was set up was the entire area was fenced off. It was also the area where alcohol was served. And so there were two entrances, and you had to go past tables with people there who were checking IDs for the alcohol sales. So it was, excuse me, it was nearly impossible to actually happen across the drag show that day. I would say it was impossible. I don't know how you would have just stumbled upon it unless you're in the habit of going past people asking for your ID without questioning why. So any young children that were there were deliberately brought by their parents. Parental rights. It might surprise you that I fully support parental rights, all of your parental rights. I really honestly do. Even if it's something that I disagree with, even if it's a way that I don't parent myself, but it has to be across the board. You cannot scream for parental rights while attempting to deny them to parents whose choices you disagree with. You have to allow all rights to everyone, or you are going to become the person that you despise.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to address the board? Welcome.
Karen Obitz, Spring Lake. I am going to make a plea that people who attend these meetings and make public comment, when they use us versus them language, and they talk about enemies and they talk about what we should be afraid of and warfare and all that, that they please leave to the side any accusations against anyone who ever publicly has stood at this podium, declared themselves a Christian, or for any pastor who has delivered an invocation here, or who is known in the community as a pastor of a Christian church. I call that not fair play. I don't believe that that's also a legitimate use of this public comment forum in this kind of a business government meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to address the board?
Roger Williams from Grand Haven. Just wanted to make a quick comment to a previous commenter. I too support parental rights, and I'm very passionate about that. But the one thing that I will point out is that if you want to go to the extreme absurd about letting children view pornography or letting children attend strip shows, drag shows where you're tipping them like strippers and all that, I mean, if you're calling that parental rights, how far will you go with that? Or we do have laws against certain things that you do to children, and that those laws prevent certain parents from doing certain things to children. Some things are abusive to children. Some things are not correct or appropriate for children. We have limitations on that. Children can't make certain decisions for themselves because they are not 18 yet. We don't let them serve in the military under 18. We don't let them drink alcohol under 18, but some are trying to use that same parental right argument to let children view pornography in schools, no less, or let children see sexual drag shows in person in the public square as well. So parental rights is a great thing, but going to that extreme, if you want to go to that extreme, then just state your case, state that, make it obvious, make it clear that that's what you're saying. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to address the board? Welcome.
Rosalie Austin, City of Holland. I would like to thank the Talent and Recruitment Committee for actually doing the function it was created for that wasn't done with the last board. And Bonnie is invited to apply again. She's been on there for almost 10 years. And I think there is a 12-year term limit for that. I was trying to look it up in the mental health code, but didn't find it. But all the interest in the community mental health, they should be invited to come to the monthly meetings and participate if it's open forum and hardly anyone ever goes or makes public comment or pays attention to what's happening and not happening. And it's very, very important to the community, and we do need their participation, whether they're a board member or a public person. And thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else in person like to address the board?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Jim Kuiper, Holland Township, and I admire every one of you who have the ability and the patience to listen and think and consider and make decisions on our behalf with our input. You've had a lot of input tonight from various sources, and that's good. Communication is good. So long as we can talk with one another, we can hear one another, and then with a measured decision, come up with your own specific answer. That's what democracy is all about. And I really appreciate you guys, and I appreciate all the comments that we have, because it reflects that we're all different people. And I can hear everybody talking, and I can empathize with people, and I'm willing to talk to people about it. And that's what it all comes down to. But as Dave and others have pointed out in the final analysis, our power comes from God, and we each need to answer to him. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in person who would like to address the board? Is there anyone online?
Yes, we have 3.
All right, excellent.
Rebecca Patrick, can you hear me? Rebecca, you can
I can hear
unmute?
you.
Okay, go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Great. Thank you. Rebecca Patrick, Allendale Township. Commissioners, I have just a couple things I'd like to reflect on with you tonight on tonight's meeting. The first is the application of Vondi Vandersweg for the CMH board. And I realize we've had some discussion on this, and I just wanted to give you my thoughts about how really discouraging and how I think problematic this is, not only for Vonnie herself as a long-term member of the board, chair of the board, and somebody who served it very faithfully and very well, and very even-handedly, I think, but also for the community. And I'm not casting aspersions on anyone's management of the committee. That's not my intent here, but just to kind of highlight why this is probably maybe a different situation than somebody who just missed a deadline. The first thing is that there's a history of this kind of problem, it sounds like. And so that should be a red flag, perhaps, when we hear that this has happened. And then the second thing is, I'm not sure that it makes sense to tell somebody who thinks they submitted an application in good faith that it's on them to to know that something happened that they should have been aware of and they should have raised a red flag about it. I mean, it reminds me of back when I was working and somebody said, sends me an email that says, if you don't get this email, let me know. I mean, it's kind of in that same category. So I guess I just caution us to be aware of the fact that maybe this is a bigger problem than we think it is. And maybe there are even other people who submitted applications that somehow got missed in all of this. And then my second comment is relative to just an observation I'd like to leave you with, which is that I hope that you can remember that the public gains trust in your work when commissioners treat each other with respect and allow an exchange of views during commission meetings. That's a highly important thing. And I think that, as Mr. Kuiper just observed, we all do better when we can listen to each other. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kelsey Compagner, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, go ahead. You have 3 minutes if you could just state your name and jurisdiction.
Absolutely. Kelsey Compagner, Park Township. Hello, my beautiful commissioners. I just wanted to kind of piggyback off of what Donna was saying in regards to Dina's opinions. Something really stuck with me. She said something about the realm of science. And I really just wanted to say, what realm? Really, the realm where you needed a vaccine to not get COVID, the realm where you needed a booster to help the vaccine to help not get COVID, the realm where you needed to wear a surgical mask to stop the spread, or where you needed to follow arrows in a store to stop the spread. The realm of science where girls can be boys and boys can be girls. Is that what you were referring to? Or maybe the realm where vaccines don't stop the spread, but they lessen the symptoms. Maybe. I think it's important that you figure out who your science is coming from and who is being paid to say what. Don't forget your scientists who are in this realm of science are the same scientists being paid by Big Pharma, who knew of the opioid crisis yet continued to push these drugs. These scientists who understand that babies don't need a hepatitis A shot, yet still enforce it within an hour of them being out of the womb. Scientists who understand that although you will definitely get sick from a vaccine, and some vaccines that literally manipulate your RNA, they'll still push it because their pockets are never, ever full enough. Commissioners, if you could also share with Joe Spalding when you see him a little side note from me, unblock me, you coward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow.
Is there anyone else online?
Yes, Joe Spalding. You can unmute. Can you hear me, Joe?
I can.
Okay, you have 3 minutes.
So yeah, I'm not an elected official. I have no obligation to listen to the nonsense that people are ranting on or spewing. I would like y'all to take a quick look around the room because you've got quite a few people there. At a minimum, 3 out of 10 of them would not be there alive today if it weren't for the miracle of vaccines. And it wasn't a God-given miracle. This one actually was man-made and created by scientists and people trusting science in the way that they should, because it's peer-reviewed and vaccines save lives. Now, I have been streaming this meeting once again, both on Twitter and Facebook. You can easily get to the Twitter stream by going to stopottawaimpact.com. That'll continue at least until comments get turned back on YouTube. I did want to quickly point out that I think it's hilarious that Ottawa Impact supporters showed up to talk about how people used to live in a culture of fear and how awful that was. And then a few minutes later, another Ottawa Impact supporter showed up to declare, actually a few of them showed up to declare that there was some sort of spiritual conflict going on and that there were some people that were more holy than some other people. This is all nonsense. Like, this is the worst part of the past that we had to grow up in this community if you did grow up here. And I know Donna Mooney did not. She moved here 8 years ago. She compared her moving here to Indians getting moved onto reservations. It's on video. It was really dumb when she said it. But, you know, those of us who have grown up here don't like that like holier than thou nonsense, right? When I was baptized and raised in St. Francis de Sales, the sermons there were decisively different than some of the other Catholic sermons that some of the other Catholics across the country experienced, because there was no preachiness about fire and brimstone. It was all service oriented and helping folks out. And that is the silent work of real Christianity. It's not whatever that guy, Aaron Compinger, who came on, who talked about fake Christians a minute ago, Joe. That guy's a child molester. He tried to have sex with an 11-year-old girl. That's disgusting. And he is a Republican precinct delegate. That's disgusting. So I wanted to finally say that those of us who have strong faith cannot be harmed even if actual devil worshipers show up there. The Satanic Temple isn't actual devil worshipers. They're just making fun of people who want their particular brand of religion in government. They're showing you why you guys are wrong about trying to force your particular view of God down the throats of other people who, by the way, are pretty freaking God-fearing. You guys need to grow up. I'm out.
Thank you. Is there anyone else online?
No, that is it.
Is there anyone else in the room who would like to address the board? Last chance. Welcome.
Schmidt, Allendale. I am just curious, and I talked to Jordan. Is that right?
Please
Do
direct
you
me.
remember I called? And I asked you, how did that Satanist get fast tracked so quick when you agreed that there was a whole roster or whatever, a line of other pastors? He just recently asked, and it's kind of funny that he got picked so quick. And I'd like to know how that happened. That's all.
Thank you. If it helps, it was the next open slot. Anyone else? Would anyone else like to address the board? Welcome.
My name is Bruce Greenlee. I live in Park Township. I just want to thank you all for doing a great job tonight. It just is amazing to me that a couple years ago, when well over 1,000, I wasn't here, and some of you were, parents came to the board meeting, and then I don't know, someone can help me maybe, because that board did not like much input at all. And so the next meeting, I think they let a person speak for a minute at a time. They only let a couple people in the room. So we're incredibly blessed that we can voice our opinions. All of us have an opinion, just like armpits. We all have one or two. They're not always valid, and we all make mistakes. But like Mr. Kuiper said, it's great if we listen to each other as we talk and have an open mind, but have a discerning mind. I thank you that you commissioners listen to lots of sides. You consider strings attached to grants and lots of other things that a lot of public doesn't pay attention to. I thank you that you spend your time and do your diligence for the measly amount of salary that you get for the way more than full-time hours that you put in. It's just amazing. The people out here that if they got paid what you got paid for spending 40, 50 hours a week doing committees and studying proposals and all that, they would have given up a long time ago. And you folks have stuck in there, and I appreciate you all doing such a great job at it. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to address the board? Seeing none, I'll just say you're welcome. The board has stayed committed to allowing people to come speak and to be committed to 3 minutes. And that is part of why we're here, is to listen, even if it goes long. So next up is the administrator's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of things, getting settled in here over this past week and a half or so. I feel right back at home in this role, very happy to say, and with the staff that I have, they've been getting me up to speed. So we're making this as smooth of a transition as we can. And with my commitment, I've been meeting with as many people as I can. Not just department heads and elected officials, but going to the different departments and trying to meet anyone and everyone I possibly can to build those relationships that I talked about. I will say that I've been briefed up on our new budgeting software that's getting rolled out, and it looks like it's going to be making our budget process a little bit easier. Even more importantly, it looks like it has a very transparent role for the public once that budget process is done. So it's going to be, I think, a really good thing for us to get going with the county. I also did start back up the brown bag lunches with the administrator. I'll be doing those once a month. Again, just my commitment to try to meet every employee I can, make sure they know they have a voice, and that I want to build those relationships again. So I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions for the administrator? Or we will look at
just a quick one.
Commissioner Bonema.
Have you been given an update on the Family Justice Center yet? If it's on track, if it's just what the latest is over there? I see it's getting closer. It's exciting.
It is. The ribbon cutting, I believe, is March 30th is when it's been set.
That's great.
Yeah, so it's moving along. I've been up to the building authority meeting. We have another one tomorrow or Thursday. It does seem to be moving along. We're getting closer, just getting some of those final touches that always need to be completed at the end.
Excellent.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, and thanks to the public. And this meeting is adjourned.